TCP also in timer algorithm, right? In timer, we have 3 algorithm, basic, then one, another, and another. 3 algorithms are there. We will see. What is the meaning of timer algorithm? You know timeout thing. After timeout, we have to retransmit, right? So in the TCP, this timeout thing is dynamic. It's not static. In data link layer, timeout thing is static always, 2 into RTT. It's fixed in data link layer, but not in TCP. So dynamically we are calculating depend upon how much traffic it is, right? So some algorithms are there. On the basis of algorithm, we calculate timer. Then there is congestion control technique in traffic shaping, your leaky bucket and token bucket. Leaky bucket and token bucket. These two techniques we will discuss. And that's the end of the transport layer. And security is not there in the syllabus this time. And in application layer, we will discuss today DNS. And the remaining protocol we will discuss later. So here still congestion control is going on. And your DNS, these two we will discuss. This remaining next lecture. Guys, any question from previous lecture? It's fine. The TCP thing, the state diagram and everything, right? Clear, right? Easy. I think you can solve each and every question from the previous GATE exam. So algorithm for dynamic timeout timer calculation. So the algorithm used for computing the value of timeout timer dynamically. 3 basic. Okay. Basic algorithm. Jacobson algorithm and Kahn's modification. This modification mean there is some problem in this both algorithm. To solve that problem, some modification, this Kahn scientist, some programmer or whatever you want to say, this person did some modification, that's a Kahn modification. Otherwise, the main algorithm are these two. Okay, all the above algorithm works as the following rule. What is the rule of this algorithm actually? The value of the timeout timer for the next segment is increased when, see, this is your client, this is your server. Let's say one segment we sent and there is acknowledgement. And let's say this is your timeout for the first segment. Then for the next segment, there is timeout calculation. It's not fixed. There is timeout calculation. Then again for the next segment, there is timeout calculation. Means for that particular segment, if acknowledgement is not come after the timeout, we have to retransmit. So this timeout and this timeout, some value different, right? So the value of timeout timer for the next segment is increased when actual round trip time of the previous segment is found to be is indicated there is high traffic in the network. What is the meaning of actual? Actual round trip time means actual round trip time is your actual round trip time is from here to here, right? This one. So this is your actual, right? What is oh guys, give me few, very important call. Give me a few minutes. Just right. 1 minute, that's it. Please. Okay, guys. Sorry for some important call came. That's why. I'm audible now. Okay, thank you. Thank you for waiting. So this way we imply our algorithm. When actual round trip time for the previous segment is found to be increased, it means if you see this one here, this is round trip type, and now your timeout is up to here. This is increased somehow. And another rule is the value of timeout timer for the next segment is decreased. Now timeout we are decreasing, not increasing. In what case? When actual round trip time for the previous segment is found to be decreased, right? Indicate there is low traffic in the network, right? So if your actual timeout is less than timeout, whatever the current timeout is there, if it is less than, then the next timeout will be also decreased, right? That's the meaning there is the less traffic in the network. So this way we calculate. See, the first one is the algorithm. First one, basic algorithm. Let's say this initial round trip time is 10 milliseconds. Let's say this is random. This is random. Initial round trip time is 10 milliseconds, right? So the initial timeout will be 2 into whatever your round trip time. So in whatever the starting, the first timeout, you can say first timeout. Your timeout will be 2 into RTT. So in the starting 10 milliseconds is there, though it will be 20 milliseconds, right? That is your timeout. And this is actual round trip time is your 50 millisecond, which is given. Means after when the acknowledgement come to the client, this is, let's say this is sender and this is your receiver, right? So when the segment this acknowledgement come, now you can calculate the round trip time, actual round trip time is 50 millisecond, right? This value is given, right? Now you have to calculate the new timeout of segment, new round trip time, or you can say new timeout for next segment. So let's say TO2. This one you have to calculate. How will you calculate which what type of algorithm are you using? So new round trip time calculating, you first have to calculate new round trip time, which is alpha into whatever the initial round trip time plus 1 minus alpha actual trip time. So this is the basic. Alpha is your smoothing factor, and this value is also given, smoothing factor. This value is also given in the question. Let's say alpha is 0.5 is given, some random value which is like x. This alpha is 0 to 1. This is the range, right? Now whatever the initial round trip time plus your actual round trip time, multiply with your smoothing factor alpha and 1 minus alpha, whatever the value, that will be our next new round trip time, right? On the basis of next new round trip time, we can calculate timeout. How? See this one. See this example. Now your alpha is 0.5. This value is given, right? See, why we are using initial round trip time? Because only from the round trip time and your actual round trip time, we can say traffic is there or not, right? By using this value, we can calculate. So same this value we are using so that we can judge the traffic is there in the network or not. Now see the first new round trip time. Which will be alpha into whatever your initial round trip time is 10 is given, plus 1 minus alpha, which is 1 minus 0 point into actual round trip time. So value will be 12.5 milliseconds. So new timeout will be 12.5 into 2. So in the algorithm, whatever your round trip time into 2. That is a basic algo, right? So now your next timeout will be 25 millisecond. Now you see, this timeout will be 25 millisecond. The first one is 20, so is increased, right? Now this is your timeout for this segment, but your segment came and the acknowledgement of that segment came 20 milliseconds. So from this point to this point, it took 20 milliseconds, but your timeout is 25. So there will be no retransmission. Everything is successful. Now for the next segment, we have to calculate timeout 3 for the third segment. For the third segment, see how we are calculating. So for the next one, the same formula, but whatever your this value, whatever your new round trip time one is the initial round trip time for the next one, right? So this one is the input for this, right? NRTT1 is the input for the next one. Now 0.5 alpha into whatever your initial round trip time means the previous value, which is 12.5 millisecond, plus 1 minus alpha, which is 1 minus 0.5 into your actual round trip time, which is 20, right? So which is 20, the next one, this value is given. Say 15 is given, 20 is given, then 10 is given. This is the sequence of the first segment, second segment, third segment, like this. So if you multiply, the answer will be 16.25. Now if you calculate timeout, new timeout, which means timeout of third segment, will be 2.5 millisecond if you multiply with 2. Simple way, right? Now this one, for the next segment, initial round trip time for the next segment. It's for the next segment, so it means new round, which will be 0.5 and 16.25, which is a previous one, So 0.25 plus 1 minus 0.5 into 10, so it will be 13.125. If you multiply with 2, the value will be 26.25, which decreased from the previous timeout, right? It is decreased. Earlier it was 32.5, now it is 26.25. Why? It's depend upon our actual round trip time. Here actual round trip time is 10. That's why. If actual round trip time is less, your timeout will be less. Actual round trip time is more, your timeout will be more. Simple. Guys, it makes sense? Right? Good. Next one, the Robertson algorithm. This is also like a basic algorithm. It's like a basic algorithm, but there is little change in that. What is the value is little change what you are saying. So whatever is the timeout of the first segment, normally for the next what we are doing, 2 into timeout. This is way we are calculating the basic algorithm. But here we are assuming there is some initial deviation. Let's say initial deviation is 5 milliseconds. Sender expect there will be deviation of initial deviation time for initial round trip time. Your first round trip time, your first round trip or initial round trip, in which there is some deviation, means there is some interruption. And for that interruption, we are considering 5 milliseconds. Let's suppose. So this value is given. So how we are calculating timeout? We are calculating timeout for the next segment is 4 into ID, whatever the deviation plus initial round trip time. Now here 4, which is fixed value, into 5 is the initial deviation plus 10. So 30 millisecond is the timeout value. And now this is for the done. For every segment we have to calculate timeout, right? So this value is always the previous segment round trip time. This IRTT is the value of the previous round trip time, always, right? So if you calculate new round trip time, you need to calculate new round trip time. How? The same formula, alpha into IRTT plus 1 minus alpha into actual round trip time, right? This one is done, right? In previous what we are doing, after this 2 into whatever an RTT, new one is we are calculating, right? But here we need to calculate new deviation, or you can say actual new deviation we have to calculate. That new deviation we will use to calculate the timeout always at each segment, right? So new deviation will be the same smoothing factor we are using, smoothing factor plus the previous deviation, the previous, for now for the second segment id, for the second segment id plus 1 minus alpha actual deviation. What is your actual deviation? Simple like actual round trip. How you calculate actual deviation? It means your initial round trip time minus actual round trip time. Whatever you expected, means initial means whatever the expected round trip time minus whatever you observed. Whatever you observed means actual. So whatever the value come after this minus, that is your actual deviation. From this we can calculate new deviation time. So with the help of new deviation time, we can easily calculate the timeout. Simple. Next segment will come, the previous value we have to use. That again next segment will come, the previous value we have to use this way. So the previous value is always the input for the next segment timeout. Now see the example. See, alpha is 0.5 is given, right? Initial round trip time 10 millisecond, initial deviation 5 millisecond is given. This is given, right? And your arrival time is also given, which is 20 millisecond for the first segment, 30 millisecond for the second segment, 10 millisecond for the third segment is given. This value is given, right? So first timeout, how will you calculate? 4 into initial deviation plus IRTT. This is the way for first. So 4 into 5 plus 1, 30, which you already calculated, right? For the next, what you have to do is you have to calculate, you need to calculate your new deviation and new RTT. These two value you have to calculate, right? Then only we can calculate the timeout with this formula. So for in the place of IRT and RTT will be there, and in the place of ID, MD will be there. New deviation will be there, right? How will you calculate? So see, your actual deviation in that segment will be 10 minus 20. Why? Because your initial round trip time is 10 and actually is 20. So 10 millisecond is the deviation, right? Now calculate new RTT, means IRTT2, let's say. So this is new. This is new RTT. I can represent also in this way, IRTT2, which will be alpha into IRTT plus alpha 1 minus alpha into actual round trip time, which is 20, the previous one, which is 20, right? So this is 20. Now it will be 15 millisecond. Now your new RTT is done. Now you have to calculate new deviation. So for new deviation, same, alpha into ID, the old one, plus 1 minus alpha into actual deviation. Your actual deviation is 10 millisecond, which you will calculate. So now 7.5 millisecond. Now you can calculate timeout for second segment, which will be 4 into ID2 plus ID2. So 45 millisecond will be possible for so this 45 will be calculated and 30 already. Now for the third segment, same thing, same way, but you need to calculate the actual deviation here, which is 15 minus 30, 15. 15 is there. You know this IIT is 15, right? Here. If you see, this is 15 is there, and 30, which is calculated. So 15 minus 30, 15 will be there. Now similarly, IRTT3 you can calculate, deviation you can calculate, and timeout with the calculator. So timeout will be 67.5 millisecond. That will be your timeout for the third segment, right? Any question? Guys, any question on this? We are doing nothing, just basic algorithms are there for calculating timeout. That's why dynamically we are calculating the timeout. That's it, right? Two algorithm, that's it. And there is some problem in this. To solve that problem, there is one modification. See, we will see the problem. What is the problem? Hans modification. So what is the meaning of Hans modification? Whenever the situation arrive, your actual round trip time is greater than timeout. It means I'm saying for segment your timeout is this one. So means your acknowledgement is delayed, right? Your acknowledgement is delayed. It means, right? It should come this one. So when the timeout happen, retransmission will be there. So here retransmission will be there. After that, you are getting the acknowledgement, right? So we have to retransmit because timer has already expired. Anyone, guys? Screen got disconnected or? Okay. Actually, our option is also gone. I don't know how to put the option. Option is also gone for presenting the screen. Refresh and reconnect, sir. Okay, fine. Done. Now fine. Yes. Now see. Now you have to calculate new RTT. You know, for new RTT, you need alpha IRTT plus 1 minus alpha actual RTT. This value you need, but after timeout, you need to do retransmission, right? You need to do retransmission. You need actual round trip time. Then only you can calculate new round trip time, right? But after timeout, I don't have because the acknowledgement is delayed. If acknowledgement is delayed, it means I can't observe new actual round trip time, right? So for this, what we have to do, there is some modification. That modification we call Kahn's modification. If there is a, so see this one easily. If you see this one, normal, your normal, now here this is delayed, right? But in timeout happen here, so retransmission is there. So we don't know this acknowledgement is new acknowledgement or previous, right? So every time double the timeout when ARTT is greater than timeout. So there are some modification. If you apply the algorithm that Jackson algorithm, if you apply this algorithm, then you need ARTT, or for calculating new RTT you need IART. If ARTT is not there and ART is greater than timeout, what you have to do? You have to follow simple thing, just double the timeout. That's it. Otherwise, follow the normal concept. Right? Otherwise, follow the normal concept. Simple, right? Guys, any question on this? This timeout algorithm are done. That's it. Only 2 algorithm and 1 modification. There is only one question on this previous. That question will, I think, theoretical question, right? But they can ask. It's fine. This is an easy thing. You can. So now the traffic shaping technique. This technique helps for the congestion control. What is the meaning of traffic shaping technique? Here you have one bucket. So here data is coming, right? Data is coming, and that data can be your study in one form or your busty form, right? Study form means, see, this is your graph. Your data is coming, study. In this rate is coming, like 2 Mbps, 3 Mbps rate is coming. But busty is here. Sometime it is coming 6 Mbps, sometime it is coming 3 Mbps, sometime it is coming 2 Mbps, sometime it is coming 10 Mbps. Like, so each router, on each router we have some buffer, right? At this router, you can say in the destination also. Each router we have, right? At IP layer, at network layer, buffer is there, right? So this router has capacity to handle that much data, whatever the busty traffic is there. So what should be our traffic shaping? What should be the output rate? That output rate should be fixed. If we make output rate should be fixed, then for the next network, for the next technology means for the other network, for the another network, your congestion will be controlled, right? So on each router, you have to shape the traffic, right? If it is coming 10 Mbps, which is very high, then we convert into 4 Mbps output rate. It means in another way we have to discard many packets. But for the next communication area, that congestion will be controlled. That's the meaning. If we say a router B destination, let's say here congestion happen. So here we are applying these two techniques. Let's say leaky bucket we are applying here, right? So if leaky bucket algorithm is there, so the output rate is always fixed, which is 4 Mbps. Let's say 4 megabits, always fixed. So the data is coming 10 Mbps or 8 Mbps or 2 Mbps, whatever. The maximum output rate is always 4 Mbps. If your aid is coming 10 Mbps, then 6 Mbps data, then most of the data we will discard. The packet will be discarded. This is the disadvantage of leaky packet, but fine. Somehow we are able to normalize the congestion control at on this area, the next area. So two techniques are there, leaky bucket and token bucket. Let's see both technique. So start leaky bucket. Here your busty data is coming, which is, let's say, 0 to 2 second. This is, let's say, in second time, right? 0 to 2 second to 12 Mbps data is coming at the speed. Now from 2 to 7 there is no data. Then 7 to 10, 2 Mbps data is coming. So busty flow is there, is like a bucket. So the flow is always fixed in this rate. So 3 Mbps is the output rate for the leaky bucket. That's the algorithm. So some algorithm we are applying on the router, right? Now see. This is leaky bucket implementation. If you see the leaky bucket. So now let's say arrival of the packet is coming. Arrival of the packet. If your queue is full, let's say if queue is full, right, then discard the packet. If no, some space is there in the queue, means in the buffer, queue means buffer, let's say, then we can put our packet here. So that packet we can store whatever the storage space is there, right? So, but from the queue, whatever the processor on the router, some processor is there now, because we need to do processing by looking the routing table and all this thing. We need some processor on the router. Processor is there, right? They are checking the queue, and output is always in the constant rate, which is 3 Mbps, for example. Simple. This is the leaky bucket algorithm. So liquid bucket algorithm shape bursty traffic into fixed rate traffic by averaging the data rate. It may drop the packet if the bucket is full, right? If the queue is full, then we need to drop the packet because we don't have a storage space, right? Why? Because congestion control, for the congestion control. Simple. Now see this example. This example we are applying. What is the meaning? We will see the algorithm from this example. We will understand the algorithm from this example. See, on every tick, on every tick, tick means your clock tick. Let's say your clock tick is 1 second. On each 1 second, we have to make our buffer n is equal to 1000. Your buffer will be 1000 byte. Let's say your buffer will be 1000 byte, and your packet is coming in this form. In this form, packet is coming. This is your first packet, then this is your next packet, this is your next packet, this is your next packet, like this, right? Now what we have to do, we have to check n value is greater than the front of queue. This is your front of queue, and this is real, right? And we are checking is greater than front of queue. Yes, n is greater, 1000 is greater than 200. So it means this 200 packet we can departure will be there, right? The maximum 1000 byte we can send, but right now the first packet is 200 byte. Okay, the first packet is 200 byte, so it's gone in that particular tick. See, let's say in 1 second, I am saying in 1 second 200 is gone for the next part, right? So next on the front of the queue, this is gone. On the front of the queue, 400. Now 400 is 800 is the remaining part. 800 is greater than 400. It means 800 minus 400 and will become 400. So your next 400 is false, which is false, right? So procedure is stop here, right? Now we have to wait to complete the this second. Once the this tick is completed, again your n value become 1000. Now see how in 1 second we have to send 1000 byte. That's it. This is the output rate we are making. So 1000 byte data we can send in 1 second, right? So that is a fixed rate. Fixed rate is there. Maximum 1000 byte we can send in 1 second. Otherwise not. So in that particular 1 second, 2 packet we send. So they can ask anything in this. In that particular one, in first tick, how many packet gone for the next part? 2 packet, right? Or in the second tick, how many packet will go? So they will give this packet queue different. You have to decide how many packet is gone for the first kit and second in. And anyway, means here you can apply your permutation and combination, but if you know the basic thing, easily you can calculate, right? Guys, agree? Say yes or no? Simple. Now try this one. Now try this question. You try. Read this question carefully and tell me how much capacity must the queue in the bucket hold not to discard any data rate. You know the leaky packet technique. Read the question carefully and think. Try. So your burst data, your input rate 6 Mbps is coming, but your output rate is 4 Mbps. The maximum transmission rate across router in the network is 4 Mbps is given. Traffic is 6 Mbps. If computer A transmission is shaped using leaky bucket, means on the router leaky bucket algorithm is there. How much capacity must the queue in the bucket hold not to discard any packet, any data? So 6 MB in 1 second. That is the bandwidth. That's the burst input rate. But how much data you need to send? 19.5. So 19.5 MB. So MB means if you want to convert in bits, multiply with 8, right? I'm converting into bits. So it becomes megabits. You can calculate that part, which will be 19.5 into 8 divided by 6. So near around 26 seconds will come, right? So that much data if you go with the flow of input rate, but your router output rate is 4 Mbps, right? So 4 Mbp in 1 second, router output rate, and your actual data in 26 seconds, how much data we can send? In 26 seconds, how much data we can send if you calculate that part? So 26 into 4, if you do all the calculation, it will be around 104 megabits. Means if you divide into bytes, 13 megabytes, that much data we can send, 13 megabyte. That much data we can send as an output rate. So your bucket size, if the flow is coming, we are sending. If flow is coming in the belonging. Now queue is a storage, we can, means that data we can store, right? So if the queue size 19.5 minus 13, it means 6.5 is the queue space, then 5, fine. So whatever the flow is coming is going on, this is 4 Mbps, here 6 Mbps, and this space is 6.5 MB. Then there will be no loss of data, because whatever the data is coming, data is going, whatever data is coming, data is going, right? So extra space, how much space is required in the bucket? 6.5 MB is required, so that we can store this data also, and after sending 13 byte, we can later send this one. There will be no discard of the data. It makes sense? 6.5 MB. Yeah. 52 MB, 52 megabits divided by 8. If you do 60, 52, 48. Yeah, fine, good. Right, 52 MB, which is megabit. You said megabit, I said megabyte. Fine, the answer is fine. 52 megabit. Got it. So, and no need to worry, this is just for your understanding. In the exam, they will mention in bytes or bits. You need to answer. So this is just for your understanding. That's it. Now, this is the leaky bucket technique. From the example, you can understand. There is the disadvantage with the leaky bucket. What is the biggest disadvantage of leaky bucket is that the output pattern cannot be modified. Your output rate is always fixed, right? So now let's say output rate is 4 Mbps and your input rate is 12, then 14, then 18, then there is good chance loss of data, loss of packet, because queue is filled, so packet will be discarded. But we need to handle dynamically so that loss of packet will be minimized, right? To overcome this one, token bucket algorithm was introduced, right? and in which a bursty traffic can be sent out as output. So your output rate is not fixed now. That will be vary. It's not fixed. Your bursty traffic can be sent out as output. So what I am saying, it's depend. In 1 second, it's not. I'm not saying in 1 second 4 MB megabits you have to send. No, in 1 second you can send 2 Mbps speed. In the next way, we can send 4 Mbps, then 8 Mbps like this. Data is bursty. Data is output rate is your bursty like this. But here in the previous, for 4 Mbps like this. The rate is this one. How we are using? We are using with the help of token. On each router, token bucket algorithm is there. It means there is some token is there. Means one token is there. On token, we are putting this token on the bucket, and depend upon the token, how much token exists in the bucket, we will maintain the output rate. So when the packet comes, if token is there, we will remove the token from the bucket, then departure of the packet. Then when the data will come, assign the token to that particular packet and remove from the bucket, and departure of the packet. So it's like this. One token removed and discard per cell transmitted. So all the output rate control come on the depend upon the arrival rate of the token. So there is algorithm, right? On the router, algorithm is there. On the algorithm, there is arrival rate of the token. So depend upon the data, arrival rate of the token will be decided, or depend upon the capacity of the bucket. Depend upon the capacity of the bucket, arrival rate will be decided, right? So arrival rate of the decided is there. Data is coming more, token will be more. Data is coming less, token will be less, like this. So we are making our output rate bursty. That's simple thing. So if more data is coming, your token in the bucket will be more, right? So when we need to departure the packet, we are assigning the token to the packet like this. Departure of the packet for forward direction is going on like this. So when data is coming in the less speed means 1 Mbps, then there will be less number of token in the bucket. See the bursty. See the output rate is bursty. Number of token is more, your output rate is high. Number of token is less, your output rate is less, right? Guys, say yes or no. This is very important and tricky also a little bit. So if you got, that's fine, good. Now see, and how what is the arrival rate of the token? Means on the algorithm we are using some variables. Now token means some variables we are using on the algorithm. On one tick we are adding one token. On one tick means, let's say one tick is your 1 millisecond. If one tick is 1 millisecond, on each millisecond we are adding one token, like this. Now see, Q is still there, right? So if Q is full, we need to discard. But we are making our ear output bursty, not fixed. That's the main difference between leaky bucket and token bucket. Now see the formula of the token bucket. M into S, C plus arrival rate, whatever is the arrival rate, into S. So the capacity of the bucket, how many tokens in the bucket, right? How many tokens in a bucket already, plus arrival rate in that particular time interval. In that particular time interval, arrival rate of the token, this row is arrival rate, is equal to, in that particular same time interval, what will be your output rate, maximum output in the same time interval. Let's say this is 0 to 2 seconds, right? In that 2 second, the arrival rate in 2 seconds of the token plus already how many tokens in the bucket is equal to the same interval 0 to 2 second, the output rate will be there. Let's say in 2 seconds, 5 token will be there and 10 is already there. Easily you can calculate this one. So the arrival rate of the token is directly proportional with the output rate. That's the main thing. That's why we say it's a bursty traffic. Now, if the bursty traffic is approaching, initially capacity is less than, more token are generated for the large amount of data. Right? Second, if the bursty traffic is approaching, initially capacity is maximum, already bucket is full, then less token are generated for forwarding the data. It makes sense. There is no need of token in the bucket. Right? Now see one example. See one example, then we will see. Your token rate, it is 6 Mbps. And your output rate is 8 Mbps. Right? And your initial capacity means the capacity of the bucket is 1 megabits. Right? So tell me time for bursty traffic. Time for bursty traffic, how much? Now try this question. Time for bursty traffic. And you know the formula. M into S C plus your output rate is equal to capacity plus arrival rate of the token. So you need to calculate S value. That is like bursty traffic. In that particular interval, what will be your that interval size they are asking, the time interval size, time for bursty traffic. Right? So if you apply this one easily, you can 8 into S 1 plus 6 into S. So 8 minus 6 S 1. So 1 by 2, which is 0.5 second. This is the interval. This is the interval of the bursty traffic. Right? So now if you increase the bursty traffic interval, then your output rate and arrival rate will be different. If you decrease your bursty traffic time, then again your arrival rate and input rate is different. But depend upon the arrival rate and your output rate, arrival rate of the token and the output rate, we can see the timing. Okay, that in 0.5 seconds, that much time, that is the speed of the bursty traffic. That's the meaning of the output rate or in arrival rate of token. Clear? Say yes or no. Bhavya, Aditi, Gayatri, Arshita, everyone, tell me. Okay. Simple. I think this token bucket is also done. Now we will discuss domain name system. So your transport layer is done. Each and every topic is done. You can solve every question from the transport layer. Now application layer. So in application layer, few protocols are there. DNS, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, FTP, HTTP, and your email. This email and HTTP is this one. In email, we have IMAP and POP protocols, right? So these 5 protocols we need to discuss. And in the previous, firewall or network security was there, but right in this session, there is no security part, so there is no need to study this one also. Now, domain name system, you know, this is www.google.com. So this is your domain name, right? This is your domain name. So first of all, if from the Google server, if you need something, some data, if you need, first of all, we have to do mapping of this name to IP address, because on the root, everyone is working on IP. I need IP, then only I can route my packet through the network, right? So because you know in the TCP header, you know in the IP header, you need IP. So from the domain name, it's not possible. So with the help of domain name, let's say Let's say this example, if you say a user is there and host name is there, or for file transfer client is there. Let's say Skype ID. Let's say Skype ID is there, host name. So your abc@skype.com, right? So this is your file transfer client. It means this is your Skype client. Let's say Skype can send the file, right? This is your Skype client. So Skype client will send the host name to the DNS client. This DNS client means is a program in the application itself. Which application? Skype application on your system. If Skype is there, in that there is file transfer client. There one more program means one more file of the program where DNS client will be there, right? So they will send the data, this host name, to the DNS client, right? Then when we run the DNS client, in the DNS client we know the IP of DNS server. In that DNS client, IP of DNS server is there, right? This is a very important question. Sometimes student confused where we get the IP. In the starting, in the application, IP of the DNS server is there, right? Now we send the domain name to DNS client. DNS client will send the host name to the DNS server. From the DNS server, whatever the IP address mapped to the domain name will come as a response to the client, when it will query, right? So we will discuss the structure of DNS server later, but for now, so response will come. This IP address will be given to the file transfer client. From the application layer, it will go to the transport layer. See, for the normal communication, yes, this from the DNS client to DNS server, physical layer is there, but that is a peer-to-peer communication for now, right? So whatever the IP address will come to the transport layer. So DNS query, your DNS query, especially we are handling for finding the IP from the DNS server. So what will be the structure of the DNS server? How we are storing all the domains and all these things? Later we will discuss. But you got the basic idea. What is the meaning of DNS query, right? Say yes or no. Bhavya, Gayatri, Hashita, Sanjeev. The basic idea. The question in GATE 2019, I think, where the sequence of step you have to tell. First of all, DNS query, then you have a TCP, then your HTTP request, right? There was one question. So this is the meaning of DNS query. And this DNS client is a program which is a part of the application. It is a part of the application. But DNS server we can install anywhere. Maybe the server in the US, maybe the server in the India, and any specific location, any remote location, right? Now come to domain namespace. Right? Domain namespace is to have a hierarchical domain namespace. A domain namespace was designed. The structure of the domain namespace is a hierarchical, means inverted tree structure. We also call inverted tree structure, from root to the top. Root at the top, root to the leaf, right? So if you design this whole domain namespace, how many level possible? 128 level possible. If you consider root 0 to last leaf will be 127. So total 128 level possible in the domain name structure, in the domain namespace. So this value is very important. 128 possible, right? So from the root, let's say root server is there, right? Root server is maintaining some file, storing this subdomain servers. You also call subdomain server, let's say, and this also are subdomain server. It's just a name, right? So let's say com server, education server, ARP server. This is for airline, maybe organization server, AD server, whatever. So many servers are there, different. Your country-wise server is there, generic domains are there, inverse domains are there, right? So inside the domain, we have further subdivision. So in the end, you can say google.com. Here you can say yahoo.com. Here you can say this one.com. Right? So this com can be stored in different places. This means this whole domain namespace can be distributed or can be stored at single node on one system. This whole domain's name we can store at node or distributed also. But in single node there is so much disadvantage. But the distributed thing is the right now currently we are using. Your com domain name is somewhere else, education domain name is somewhere else, organization domain name server is somewhere else. And on top of that we have a root. Root is linked with everyone. This is your root server, like this. Right? How we represent and label, what are the labels? Let's see. This is your root. From root to you came, let's say, education server, edu. So edu is a label for the domain name, right? So this is your domain name. Again, inside the edu we have fhda. There is another label. This is also a domain name. This is also a domain name. Yes. Again, this is also a domain name. Again, this is also a domain name. All are domain name. So this is your, let's say, main domain name. Inside that subdomain, this is subdomain, this is subdomain. This is the how hierarchical structure of the domain name, right? It's same like one network ID is there, then sub block is there, sub block is there, sub block is there. So in here we maintain the hierarchical structure. Similarly, in the domain name, hierarchical structure is there. And how we search our domain name or our IP with the help of domain name. You can go from the leaf to the root or root to the leaf, top to the bottom, bottom to the top. We will see how we do the technique to find, means address resolution, mapping of the address from the name to IP or IP to the name, both thing. There is a case you have IP, you need domain name. Currently I'm saying you have domain name, you need IP. But there are some cases you have IP, now you need domain name. So vice versa is also possible. See, this is your root server. How this is your com domain, this is your education domain. So com, now your one more is there, let's say AP or something else is there. So one more domain, subdomain also we call domain. This is fine, right? Inside also we have a domain. Similarly here, domain. This is the how the structure of the domain. That's the mean. This way we called. Okay. Distribution of namespace. Distribution of namespace. The information contained in the domain namespace must be stored, right? So whatever information of the domain must be stored somewhere. However, it is very inefficient, also unreliable to just have one computer stored such a huge amount of information, because so many domain names are there, so many, like in billions domain names or millions. Billions, oh, high ho gaya, like, yeah, billions. It means 100 crore. 10 is to 9. That number of information is there. On one node, we can't store. Big storage is required. Big server is there for processing, for searching and all these things, right? Big server is required. So the solution of this problem to distribute the information among many computers called DNS server. All are DNS server. There is one computer system we call root server, another computer system we call ARPA server, another computer system we call education server. On that, this one com server. Inside the com server, we have one more server, right? Like this. This way, all are connected. This domain name server, and all the information of domain name is there. There is one terminology, Jones. The server make a database called John file, and keep all the information of every node under the domain. It means some database is there here, some database is there, and some fields are there. In that fields on .com, whatever this all inside that .com domain information, all information in this table is there, whatever is required. That information can be abstracted, or that information can be in detail, right? It's depend how we are maintaining our information. Only abstraction is required. Abstraction means just a pointing information. Just pointer is there, go to inside the domain and find out the exact information. Or maybe a frequent information we are storing. Let's say once first time I requested in the .com, and I go to .com and go to that particular location, I found out, and when response is coming back in the cache, there is memory. On each server, storage is there. It means on each server, cache is there, right? On cache, we are storing for some time as a frequent, right? So next time the same request come, right? If the value in the cache, we can use from here also. There is no need to go inside the domain. This is also there, right? So how we implement domain name system in the internet? How we implement the domain name system in the internet? So domain name system is the protocol that can be used in different platform in the internet. 3 domain namespace is divided. 3 sections are there in the tree. 1, generic domain. 2nd, country domain. 3rd, inverse domain. This generic domain and country domain is normal from IP to name. Mapping will be there, but in inverse domain from name to IP. Sorry. From name to IP, this generic and country, and this inverse help from IP to name. There is one question from inverse domain in the GATE 2007, maybe. Yeah, GATE 2007. There is one question from the inverse domain. Let's see what is the meaning. Just basic information. Generic domain root level, you have, this is your from airplanes and aerospace something. Bridge is there, .com is there, Coop is there, education is there, government is there, info is there, INT is there, MIA is there, museum is name, net, organization, and all these things. You can study if you want it from the Wikipedia, but I don't think you need to spend so much time on DNS. Just basic information is fine, right? So how the domain structure is hierarchical in this way. So actual, if you see, this is the final domain name. So from there, IP is there. This IP will be revert back to reach to that particular client. So this is our country domain. Here we have AE, where France, US, JW, I don't know what is, say IN, India, PK, Pakistan, NP, Nepal, like this. So inside the US, we have also domain name, right? So CA, California, CUP, and all these things. Also, how you present in this invert, California.us. Similarly, let's say in this Haryana.India, IN. Or here also we have hry.government.in. Similarly, for Gujarat, guj.government.in, like this. Or Karnataka, whatever. Karnataka.government.in, like this. Inverse domain, right? This is very important. This inverse domain is used to map an address to the name, IP to the name, IP address to a name. So this may happen, for example, when a server has received a request from the client to do a task. So server request, and this type of query is called inverse or pointer. Now server need to do some task, and server is have IP now. Server has IP, but server don't know the domain name. So server can send the IP to the DNS server to where invert to inverse domain and to find out the what is the IP of that particular from corresponding to domain name, like this, right? So to handle the pointer query, the inverse domain is added to the domain namespace, which with the first level node called APRA. That is the first level node. The name is ARPA, ARPA, right? And the second level of also a one single node named in ADDR. So this is your first level of node on one system, let's say, or another node ADDR. Then inside this one, after that, whatever the IP we can find out. So rest of the domain define IP data. Yes. This is the inverse domain, how we will search all these things. Now see, this is your generic country and inverse domain is done. Resolution, how we do the resolution of the address. The mapping a name to address or address to a name is called name address resolution. DNS is designed as a client server application, from client to server. Here your DNS client, and here DNS server. That's why client server application. And this DNS client and server is socket programming. That's it. And some whatever the content is required in the program, but it's like a socket programming. We have to open the connection, we have close the connection, all these things. TCP connection is there, UDP connection is there, whatever, right? A host that need to map an address to the name or name to address is called DNS client, or we call resolver, who resolve the problem, who do the mapping of the address to the name or name to the address. We call resolver, this one. Now see that one. So there are two solutions. There are two solutions for the resolution. One is recursive solution, second is iterative solution. One is recursive, second one is iterative. In the recursive, let's say we are asking mcgrow.com. So I need address of this. So it will go from whatever the client we are using, from that client to DNS client, right? From DNS client to that particular node. Let's say it will go the FDU. It will go from bottom to top approach, right? So edu from bottom, also there is no IP, so this one is not there on this server. Now recursive means from bottom to top, means from child to parent, parent to parent, parent to parent. So when on the top we reach, then from that parent to another child where we want to reach. So let's see what I'm saying here. Trees level is there, it will start from here, then go this part, it will search, and any other server is there, then this part, go this part, this, like this. So similarly, if you see, the request will go recursive. And why I'm calling recursive, where we started, we have to come from there. That is the meaning of recursive, right? Recursive programming in the stack, all recursive is there, right? So it will go from ADO to parent, from parent to root. So okay, there is no IP in the ADO, it's IP in the COM, right? It will go to the COM, then go to the child, right? Yes, this is your server, I got the IP, it will respond to the COM, then root, then again ADO, then this one. So where it started, it will come, response come from that part. That is the meaning of recursive. And what is the meaning of iterative? See that part. And the meaning of iterating here, DNS client, here, it will search edu and get the response. No, it's not there. Then it will send the direct request to edu, the parent one, and got the response. No, it will not there. Then it will send to root. It will go as per flow. Edu, then parent, then parent. Root is the highest one, right? Root is the highest one. Then here searching is there. It will get the response. You need to check in .com. You need to check in COM server. Response will come, whatever the required. Then it will go to the COM. They will searching will be there, whatever the response is there. After get the response, then there will be request on this mcgrow.com, right? response will be there like this. This is called iterative resolution. The previous one is recursive. How we search our IP address with corresponding to their domain name. Guys, say yes or no. Right? Simple, iterative and recursive. And on caching, on each server, means on each system or on each node, there is cache, right? So when a server asks for a mapping from another server, receive the response, and it store the information in its cache memory before sending to its client. So whatever the response is coming now, it's on each server we are storing, right? So if the same or another client ask for the same mapping, it can check the cache memory and resolve the problem from their angle only. It is just checking the, so it means you, this is your client, let's say this is your LAN, right? On LAN, one router is there. Then here, your ISP is there. Let's say from ISP, here we have DNS server. On DNS server, layer is there. On each layer, we have, on each node, we have domain cache. So it will first check the local DNS, let's say local DNS server, you can also call in the cache. IP is there or not? No. Then go to the ISP, let's say Airtel. On the Airtel, we are checking on the ISP server. Is there IP? No. Then it will go to the DNS server. On the first layer, we are checking. No, it's not there. Then go to the parent. Then go to the root level. If root they are going, no, its root is not there. Then go to the .com. They can go to the child, right? So if it is iterative, then it will come directly. If it is not recursive, then it will come like this. So here DNS very important. This line is very important. This DNS can use either UDP and TCP. So your this application protocol can use UDP and TCP. Again, what is the meaning of this one? Means whatever the DNS packet, request packet you are sending now, that packet we can send through UDP also. You can send TCP, right? Somehow that packet will go through the physical layer, right? But IP is not there. IP of DNS is there, but not for normal transaction or normal communication. Let's say I need HTTP communication, but for this I need IP of Google. I don't have, but I have IP of DNS in first time. So IP of DNS there, it will go through UDP and TCP, get the response of the Google IP, then I will generate the HTTP request. So in the both case, a well-known port used. So which port number they are used at transport layer? 53 port number used by the DNS, right? And UDP is used when the size of the response message is less than 51 byte. So if data is less than 51 byte, the response message is less than 51 byte, then fine. If it is greater than equal to 51 byte, then TCP. If it is more than 51 byte, then TCP connection is used. All right, this way we are distinguishing between UDP and TCP. We can use why less size in the UDP, because UDP is connection less protocol, which is unreliable. That's why data is, if data response is less, better to use UDP, right? If response is very large, right? So much data is coming. If we use connection less protocol, then loss of packet will be, then there will be no acknowledgement also, right? If data is high, better to use connection oriented, you know. Done, guys? Say yes or no. So two things are very important in DNS: your searching time and your propagation time. So searching time means to search the IP corresponding to domain name in the database. In searching time means your database is there now on each server. So in the database, whatever the searching of the IP corresponding to domain name. Your propagation means your propagation time means from location to location, means from one server to another server to another server to client. The propagation of the response or propagation of the request packet is the propagation time, right? So your searching time we can reduce, right? If we are using DNS server in the hierarchical form, right? And propagation time can be reduced by placing server at different geographical areas. Let's say propagation time. Let's say right now DNS server in US from the India, if you are doing, there's a long distance. If you keep DNS server in India itself, then your propagation time will be reduced, right? To reduce the propagation time and to reduce the searching time. So if you keep hierarchical, searching time will be less. Or proper if you keep different geographical location that DNS server, then propagation time will be less. Right? Now next. Okay, guys, try this question. Gate 2007 or 8 maybe. I don't know. You know round trip time and timeout, all these things. Try this question and tell me which line is right and false. Simple, huh? We did algorithms and all these things, timeout thing. Yes, Bhavya, right. See the first line. The timeout value is set to the RTT measured during TCP connection establishment for the entire duration of connection. No, for each segment we are calculating timeout, right? And each segment means during data transfer phase also. So during the connection establishment, we are not doing for the duration. During data transfer also is each segment we are calculating, right? We did algorithm, basic algorithm and Jacob sub algorithm. Cons modification is there, right? Three algorithms are there. Two algorithm, one modification is there, right? So first line not possible, false in the TCP. Second, appropriate RTT estimation algorithm is used to set the timeout value of TCP connection. Yes, it is used. This is true. Third point, the timeout value is set to twice the propagation delay from the sender to the receiver. No, this is not fixed in the TCP.
transport layer. It is only fixed in data link layer. This line is right for data link layer, not for TCP. And they are asking for TCP. So answer is B. Harshita, Sanjeev, and Aditi. Right? It makes sense? Right? Easy. This question is GATE 2016, I think. Yeah, GATE 2016 question. You have 5 to 10 minutes. Try this question. Think, apply token bucket, and find out the minimum time required to transmit the data is dash second. Just visualize the token bucket algorithm first of all on this. Aditi, I think right, 1.1, most probably. Right. Answer is 1.1. You know formula, right? So if you calculate for the 1 byte, let's say capacity is 1 megabyte is there for, plus your arrival rate for the token arrive is 10 into S, and output rate is 20 into S. So you 10 S is equal to 1, S is equal to 1 by 10, which is 0.1 second. So 1 byte is already there, so it easily transmitted. How much data you need to send? 12 byte. So 12 byte 1, 11. So for 1 byte 0.1, so 11 into 0.1 second, which is 1.1. or disconnected. Nice. Done. Next. Try this question, guys. This question from DNS. Only one question. Assume that host1.mydomain.com DOM has an IP address, this one. Which of the following option would be most appropriate as a subsequence of step in performing the reverse lookup of? So reverse lookup means from IP to domain name, right? From IP to domain name, reverse lookup. So which subsequence of step will be there in the name server? Where we have to start? What will be your first node? What will be your second node? And what will be your third node? Like this. Yes, Sanjeev. Answer is C. Your first node is ARPA. You know, we studied in the inverse domain. The next node is your ADDR. Then IP started. So if you see, this is your first node, then this one, then IP started. It means the first IP this one, then this one. So if you say after this 145.in.addr.arpa, फिर after this 128.145 in.addr.arpa, then after this next one 16.128.145. Same. Next here also 8.16.128.145. Same. Like this. Like this we search and map the IP address to domain name. Guys, make sense? Say yes or no. Difficult तो नहीं लग रहा? It's not. What do you say? It's easy, right? Guys, try this one also. Which of the following is false about DNS? I found this question in Gate Overflow. So actually there is very less number of in question. Yes, answer is C, because DNS tree have 128 levels, not 64. Right? Otherwise, if you see the remaining, DNS is client server. Yes, DNS client and DNS server is there. DNS use the service of UDP for less than and otherwise TCP. Yes, we studied that part also. And last line, DNS organize the namespace in the hierarchical structure. Yes, if we arrange, we reduce the searching time also with the hierarchical structure. And one more question. Just wait. In hierarchical routing, right? In hierarchical routing, within 4,800 routers are there. Your hierarchical routing. Right? What region? Question is what regions and clusters size should we take to minimize the size of routing table? For 3-level hierarchy. So this is a question. Total 4,800 router is there. So there is one region like DNS, one server is there. Similarly, clusters size should be taken to minimize the size of routing table for 3-level hierarchy. So options are, let's say A, your 10 clusters, 24 regions, and 20 routers. 20 routers are there. What is the meaning of this line? In each cluster, 24 region, on each region, 20 cluster. So it means 10 into 24 into 20, it will be 4,800 always. Right? So again, B is also 12, 20, and 20. Same 24. If 12 into 20 into 20, 4,800 routers. Total 48. Answer C, C option, 16 and 25. And D is 15, 16, 20. If you multiply, all will be 4,800. So which what size, right, should we take to minimize the size of routing table? Minimize the size of routing table means how will you decide which option is very good? 10 cluster, 24 region, 20 routers, or 12, 20, 20, 16, 12, 25, or 15, 16, 20? Which option is very good? Guys, question is clear. Say yes or no. Okay. Tick. Now think and try this one. Yes, in terms of entries. minimum size of routing table is in terms of entry. And but the thing is, the key point is, this is a 3-level hierarchy. Hierarchy is a key level point, right? So how will you keep this one? So which is the best combination to minimum number of entry? This one, with the perspective of minimum number of entry. What? Why we are reducing the routing table entries? To reduce the searching time, right? Searching time. If you reduce, if we are using hierarchy, it means searching time will be less. So which combination is good so that searching time will be less? If searching time is less, then that is the best combination. Yes, Sanjeev, right. Answer is D. 51 entries. If you see, hierarchical means what? Cluster is there. Let's say 10 clusters are there. In each cluster, 24 regions are there, right? And each region, 20 routers are there. So if you need to search from one cluster to one region to this one, how much maximum search? For in the worst case, all 10 cluster, then all region, then all router, right? So this is one. So how much searching time will be there in this one? Try 10 plus 24 plus 20. It will be 54. If you apply the second one, that will be 52. And if you see the third statement, that will be 53. If the last one, 51. So searching time is very less for the D option. Simple addition. Question is very simple, but understanding the hierarchical thing is searching time is very less. And the size, minimum size, means why we are reducing the routing table to reduce the searching time. That is the key motive. We studied in the network layer, right? So just you apply common sense, answer is D. 15, 16, 20, 51 entries are there. 15 one time we have to search. If we apply this configuration, then worst searching time is 51. On 51 places in the worst case we have to go, right? Guys, say yes or no. Now I think I'm done this part, and in the next lecture, the remaining application protocol, all this your SMTP, FTP, HTTP, and that's it, or an email, right? In the next lecture, then your computer network is over. Start giving test. One class test already uploaded about IPv4 addressing and subnetting. From this topic, I already upload the one class test. You can give anytime, right? The remaining also I will upload by next week, most probably. And next Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday, 1 hour to discuss your problems, or we will discuss also little complex question. I don't think any question is there in the networking. Still we will discuss. And there is one video from Ethernet bridge I will share by next week, which Sanjeev and yeah, you remember, right, Sanjeev? One video I will share by next week of Ethernet bridge problem from the gate overflow.
will POP? Yes, POP3 will also be covered. Is a part of email. I said na. IMAP, and POP3 is the email. Right, it will be covered. I came across one of the question which it's IMAP and POP3 are both things now we have to apply, which is best and which is, we will discuss in email. Leave that for now. In detail we will discuss. No need to worry. And yeah, so many security questions are there, so you can avoid this question. No need to fear that part. So many, and 1 or 2 firewall question is also there, right? So security question and firewall question, you can security just RSA and encryption and decryption. If you see anywhere, just ignore that question. If you want to learn by yourself, it's fine, but there is no syllabus in this time, so no need to worry. And the firewall question, right? Right, any question, guys? Computer network last lecture next Sunday, this Sunday. Any from you 5 guys, if you facing any problem in computer organization or computer network, we can discuss this Sunday also. 5-minute call, right? You can call me anytime in this Sunday. We can discuss. Fine. See, I'm again telling, again repeating, CS, very easy subject, only revision and practice, right? Multiple time means 10 to 12 times each subject you have to revise. So if you revise second, third time, no, that will be easy again. But revise. That is the only technique. This is like key point, yeah. Only this is the only key point. Fine. Thank you, guys. Good night.